Hey, what is going on, guys? Today I'm sharing with you a quick little tuning guide, if you will, for the brand new VRC Formula Alpha. This thing in its stock setup is quite bouncy, and to someone who doesn't really have a ton of setup knowledge, that can be quite frustrating to have a car that is constantly bouncing around all the time. So I'll be sharing with you some of the key setup points that will help the car bounce less, as well as describing a couple of the aero settings and what they do. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. The first thing I recommend you do is install the optional setups that come with the car. I have the Barcelona one loaded right now because we are at Barcelona, but they have a couple others for like Silverstone, for instance. I think they have one for the Red Bull Ring as well. They have a couple of tracks on here, some of the more common European Kunos tracks. They have Spa as well. So loading one of these setups and starting with them as a base is definitely a good starting point. The Spa one is actually quite good on a lot of tracks, especially if they're more like medium downforce tolerant, tracks. Just the Spa's setup is kind of like in the middle, and it does work quite well. But again, if you're running on specific tracks that have Kunos setups, you might as well use them. And for a lot of people, that Spa setup and, the predetermined ones will be good for the vast majority of tracks, but if you really want to get the most lap time out of this car possible, you're going to need to get your hands a little bit dirty. And the biggest gains and setup tweaks are going to be made in the aero kit settings. So you have two aero kits to start with here. You have the B-Spec one and the A-Spec one. It changes the front wing a little bit. It adds this little piece to the floor right here. And you're probably wondering, besides changing the look of the cars, what do they actually do? So what they do, the A-Spec kit, which is the alternate one, is a higher downforce setup. It also has a little bit less drag, but it stalls at a higher height, which might cause bouncing and bottoming out at lower speeds. The B-Spec kit, which is the one that normally comes with it, provides a higher downforce on average. So A-Spec is higher peak downforce, while B-Spec is higher average downforce. It's more front bias downforce as well. It's slightly more efficient and stalls at lower heights and higher speeds. So basically what this is saying is that if you're going to be doing some really high speed stuff, I think the B-Spec aero kit is going to be what you want. If you're on a really fast track, B-Spec is probably where you're going to want to be in terms of, just not bouncing. But for the A-Spec though, I think it's a little bit better, at least in my experience, around the shorter tracks, your Monacos, your not as straight line speed reliant tracks, just because it bounces a little bit less. You also have the front wing angle and gurney flaps. I don't know what the gurney flaps really do, but the angle is just the angle. So the higher the angle, this is more downforce, and then this is less downforce. The rear wing assembly, though, is quite interesting. So you have the max downforce setup, you have the a medium downforce setup, and then you have the, Monza very low downforce setup. So if you're on a, very fast track, again, like Monza, you're going to want the lower downforce spec one, basically just kind of mimic what the teams do in real life. For the vast majority of tracks, rear wing one will probably do you best, but if you're on a track that is very downforce reliant, has a ton of sweeping turns, then rear wing assembly 2 might be the one for you. But besides that, this is just the Spa setup again. We'll see here that at high speeds, we got a little bit of bouncing right there. We do. DRS also, by the way, helps bouncing a little bit. But as you can see, this is definitely a drivable experience. We're not bouncing constantly through the turns and things like that. If you're bouncing near the end of the straights, then that doesn't really matter a ton. But as you can see, just some minor bouncing, nothing too crazy. Again, nothing that's really hindering you. But again, the best setups are going to be the ones that have the least amount of bouncing, but also still have a high amount of downforce. We can go on to the T-Cam as well to see a bit more of the bouncing. And again, it does it a little bit, like you can see it kind of wiggling up and down, but it's definitely not, crazy extreme to where you're going to be losing out on time. So yeah, I'm not really trying to teach you about setups. I could have gotten like a couple of the minor things wrong in this video. I'm not a full setup expert myself, but hopefully this can just help you out if you're having a ton of porpoising problems and it's really hindering your enjoyment of this car, because it is a fantastic car and I want everyone to be able to try it and experience it. It's actually bouncing quite a lot here. Maybe this Barcelona setup isn't too fantastic. But yeah, that's all I really have for you guys today. If you did enjoy this video, a like and a sub would mean a lot if you found it helpful. Just a quick video. Hopefully it can get you started. The TLDR is you don't even really need to mess with anything. Just get the default setups. Run the Spa one or the Silverstone one. Vast majority of tracks will be good. If you're going to a place like Monza, just turn down the rear wing assembly to 0 and you will be golden. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one, guys.